everyone, and welcome to the LMTI Spotlight Series. This session is called Self-Care in Crisis and Beyond, and we'll focus primarily on self-care, what we can do for ourselves, and how we can support others. The Lindsay Meyer Teen Institute, if you're not familiar with us, is a nonprofit based in Secaucus that serves all of New Jersey. We are a program of partners in prevention, and our primary focuses, we have a lot, but our primary focuses are alcohol, tobacco, and other drug prevention, youth leadership, mental health, and overall promoting wellness and doing a lot of wellness programs. If you're interested in learning more about LMTI, you can check us out at njlmti.org or visit our parent agency, Partners in Prevention, at pipnj.org. And as always, you can check us out on social media for all the newest updates and more information. Our handle is at njlmti. My name is Rachel, and I will be guiding you through this 30-minute or so webinar. A little bit about me. I've been working for LMTI for almost 5 years now. I went through the program when I was in high school, and I've just been involved ever since. I think it is that awesome. Yes, I'm very biased. I am a music therapist, and I'm also a youth mental health first aid instructor. So this topic of self-care is really important to me. So if you do have any questions after we go through all of this, feel free to contact me. My email is here on the screen, and that's our office phone number. So let's jump in. The goals of this session: want to understand the importance of self-care, right? Learn some tools to bring back to the population you serve, but also take some time for yourself. And I hope we get to accomplish all of those. So, okay, why is self-care important, right? We hear this all the time. Well, this year and these past few weeks have truly been an emotional roller coaster. And maybe you feel exhausted and angry or sad or hopeless or any extreme emotion or nothing at all. And all of that, all of those feelings lead to burnout. And that's that physical, mental, emotional exhaustion caused by the long-term involvement in emotionally demanding situations. And I'm sure everybody listening to this can relate to that in some way. We've also got compassion fatigue, another buzzword here, and that's the emotional residue or strain of exposure to working with those suffering the consequences of traumatic events. So if you're a teacher, if you're a guidance counselor, if you're somebody who's working with a population that has been exposed to these traumatic events or has been having a lot of, a lot of pain, you might be feeling that pain too. And that's why self-care is important. If we're feeling burnout, if we're feeling compassion fatigue, we've got to address it. Burnout can include a lot of different feelings and signs and symptoms. This stress related to the burnout leads to anxiety and being overwhelmed, and maybe you feel like giving up, or you can't motivate yourself to put in the effort that's needed to do whatever work is required of you. And that's really common, especially among activists and change makers and people in helping professions. So as change makers, we tend to feel the weight of the world on our shoulders. And while we absolutely need to continue doing our work and keep moving, we need to recognize that we've got to take time for ourselves in order to accomplish, all the things that are before us that we want to work on. I'm sure a lot of you have heard that phrase, fill up your cup, right? It's this idea that we're giving so much of ourselves to others and we're filling up other people's cups. But if we don't take the time to fill up our own, what happens, right? You can't pour from an empty cup. You have to take care of yourself in order to take care of others. So let's get into it. Self-care. So basic definition here, just activities that help you find meaning and that support your growth and groundedness. I really like this definition. You can see the source in the bottom. There's a great article there about self-care versus self-soothing. So self-soothing are activities that provide distraction and or comfort in difficult times. So let's see if we can spot the difference here. So self-soothing is fancy beverages, it's bubble baths, it's fresh flowers, right? Those are those things that provide distraction and comfort. All good things, all things that, you know, if it makes us happy, we should keep doing it. But self-care are the activities that find meaning and support growth and groundedness, like going to therapy or meditating, you know, saying yes and no when you really mean it. Self-care and having those activities that find meaning and support growth help enact change, help make us fill our cups, right? Help make us feel better. While fresh flowers are nice and might make us happy for a day, that's not going to have the lasting impact that taking ownership of your finances or eating well for your body is going to have for you. So throughout this presentation, I just really want us to be able to differentiate between self-soothing and self-care. And you can see too, like exercise falls in both of them. There might be a little bit of overlap, but when we talk about self-care, we really want things that support our growth and groundedness. Self-care can be work sometimes, but it's important work that helps us to fill up our cup. So there's a lot of different types of self-care. The word self is in it, right? It's all about you. So it's going to look different for different people. And there's different domains, right? We've got, it could be physical, emotional, social, spiritual, personal, space, financial, work. It could be any of those and more. Again, it's all about finding, you know, what the right domain is for you. What do you need to address in your own life to help promote the groundedness and the growth of yourself? So feel free to check out this Instagram at Blessing Manifesting. They have a lot of really great infographics and more information, but I did just want to say self-care looks different for different people. Before we jump into my ABCs of self-care, wanted to share another Instagram post here. I kind of find it funny, you know, social media can be a source of a lot of stress and comparing ourselves and just seeing things that aren't really bringing us joy. But there are a lot of accounts out there that promote self-care, promote positive mental health messaging. And I really like this from at Black Mental Health Matters. True self-care is not soft baths and chocolate cake. It's making the choice to build a life that you don't need to regularly escape from. And that, as I've already said 3 times, is what self-care is. It's putting in the work to help yourself grow and learn. So let's jump into some ABCs of self-care here. I like to break this down into awareness, balance, and connections. That's what self-care is to me. So when I say awareness, I'm talking about identifying and verbalizing how you're feeling. 2 different things. Identifying, you might be able to recognize how you feel, but also being able to communicate that and verbalize it. So it's checking in with yourself. It's identifying your stress signature and building your emotional vocabulary. When I say check in with yourself, there's a lot of different ways you can do this and a lot of different ways you could teach your students or the young people that you work with to do this. Checking in with yourself, you might just say it's taking a pause, right? It's taking a deep breath and listening to your body, listening to your mind. What's going on with me right now? Just take that pause, because sometimes we're just running. So taking an intentional moment to kind of say, hey, how am I doing? If that's a little too vague, you could also do a halt check. HALT stands for hungry, angry, lonely, tired. So if you're feeling some kind of way, just stop and ask yourself, am I hungry? When's the last time I ate a full meal? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Do I need somebody to talk to? Am I tired? Did I get enough sleep last night? And, it might be that you're dealing with something outside of that scope, but this is a really good place to start. We also have an LMTI check-in, and you can find that on our website with the supplemental materials from this presentation that kind of goes through a number of questions for you to ask yourself, different prompts for you to start thinking about how you're doing. So we're checking in with ourselves, right? We're identifying how we feel, but being able to verbalize that is a really important component as well. Things aren't just good or bad, right? We need to build our emotional vocabulary up. This helps us to better understand our feelings, but it also helps us to better communicate your feelings, which is really important. If you're reaching out and asking for help, we want to make sure that we're representing how we're feeling accurately so that we can get the best help that's out there and that we can really address the issue. Building your emotional vocabulary is kind of a daunting task. Nobody wants to sit in front of a dictionary and just learn new words all day. So I find that this tool has been really helpful. This is Dr. Gloria Wilcox's Feeling Wheel. I found this through the Calm app, and you can check it out on their website at blog.calm.com. And this just kind of breaks down those core emotions into more specific words, because there's a difference if you just say, I'm angry. That gives one meaning, but it could be so many different things. And you can just see as it fans out, angry could be annoyed, or angry could be that I've been disrespected. It could be so many different things. So after you identify how you're feeling, just taking that extra step to really cultivate the right words to represent how you're feeling. And this is a great tool to start doing that. So again, that's awareness. How are we feeling? Checking in with ourselves, and then being able to put words to those feelings. And this is all really important when we talk about self-care. How can we address what our stress is if we can't pinpoint and identify it? So really evaluating what's going on in our lives. All of the tools and check-ins that I just said are really important in identifying what's taking up most of our headspace right now, what's contributing to our stress. And I challenge you to really sit with yourself and assess what's going on, as that can only lead to more self-growth and better self-care. And this is going to help us as we go through and we try to find balance. Balance was really hard enough to attain before, um, before 2020 started happening, right? Before the pandemic, before everything that's going on, the social unrest. But now it means something completely different, right? Balance can be a tricky word. How can we balance work and life and I mean, these are just questions that we have all of the time that are just have been really put into a pressure cooker uh, by being quarantined and with work and life starting to kind of meld together in school. Um, so when we picture the scales being balanced and completely equal, that's kind of an unrealistic definition of balance. It's impossible to maintain, perfectly maintain every area of your life. There's just so many things. And that can be unfair to yourself to have that expectation. Balance is not about that perfection. It's about compassion. It's finding what balance means for your life and you defining that. Doesn't have to mean everything's in order or I'm in a good mood all of the time or I have perfect self-care habits. Don't expect that of yourself, especially with everything going on. Instead, we're working towards having a balanced perspective of ourselves and our lives, where we can struggle, but allow ourselves to be human. So, balance is a lot of things. It's seeking help when you need it, whether that's from a friend or professional help. It's saying no and not apologizing for that. That is definitely something I struggle with. I think that's a skill that we have to, as humans, work on. I'm envious of people who are able to just to say no. That is a superpower. It's balance is encouraging yourself, but being patient with yourself. It's just I like this idea of finding harmony between your expectations and reality. Um, it's realizing that you can have, you know, all the plans in the world, but reality's still going to come and you're still going to have to deal with what, your family, your work, whatever life is throwing at you on a daily basis. So, finding a world and a way that your expectations and all of that reality can live together and you can still feel complete and happy and full is what's key. It's hard, but it's important. And then we have not being so hard on yourself. Again, one of those things that's much easier said than done. But I said it once, I'll say it again. Balance in self care is all about compassion. It's not focusing on what went wrong, it's trying to figure out a way to grow from it and learn from it. There's a couple of different things we can help ourselves do to find those balance. And I think creating healthy routines is definitely one of them. Um, you know, routines and planning can help. Preparation can reduce some of our stress and anxiety or negative emotions. So here's just a couple of tips, finding what's right for you. I think that's a big theme in this presentation because we all have different schedules and responsibilities. So finding what's right for you, starting small. Self-care doesn't have to be, um, I'm starting a wild regime of doing an hour of stretching and then an hour of yoga and then an hour of therapy and then an hour of this and then it doesn't have to be that. Picking one small thing to work on and building upon that. Having the term micro habits comes to mind. Just setting the tiniest goal for yourself and and growing from there. Planning ahead. I think planning breaks in the day is really important for me. And knowing when I'm going to do my self care uh, activity or when I'm going to do something for myself is really important. Don't beat yourself up, right? That's what balance is. It's compassion. And then just celebrating small victories is also really important too. So we've got our awareness and finding balance. And then it's about connections, processing through your thoughts with others. And that could be peer support, your friends, your coworkers, family support, your loved ones, or professional support, right? There's so many different resources out there. Don't let the stigma of professional support stop you. There's nothing wrong with seeking out professional support. Um, you know, it's important that we talk with others and we connect. That's why it's on here. It's human to connect with others. So those are my basic ABCs, but I want to move into some practical things that you could be doing for yourself or teaching others when it comes to self-care. Mindfulness is a word that we hear a lot. Um, and I really like this definition, so I'll just read it verbatim. Mindfulness is simply being aware of what is happening right now without wishing it were different. It's enjoying the pleasant without holding on when it changes, which it will. Being with the unpleasant without fearing it will always be this way, which it won't. Mindfulness is simple yet complex, right? And it's a very powerful practice of just training our attention, paying attention to what's happening here and now, our thoughts, our feelings, in a non-judgmental way. And it's really powerful because as we're stressed out and getting lost in our thoughts and things are swirling around, this can help focus our mind. So here's a couple of exercises. I'll go over 2 different examples. And I encourage you to, after I explain, pause this video and just try it yourself for a second. Take that time for yourself. So focusing on breathing and one's breath is, I think, really important in self-care. It's one of the most basic things we can do. It's life, right? The 4-7-8 method of breathing, I like using this to center myself if I'm feeling overwhelmed, if I'm feeling panicked. And I find that it's a really helpful tool for a lot of reasons. It's focusing on the counting, it's focusing on your breath, and holding your breath helps to oxygenate, your blood cells, and exhaling for longer helps with carbon dioxide. Again, I'm not a scientist, but I find this method really helpful. So I encourage you in a second to pause this video and try it for yourself. It doesn't matter how fast or slow you count, just keep this ratio to yourself. So I'll allow you a minute to try and do this a few times. All right. I hope that was helpful and helped to center yourself a little bit. Another thing that I like to use with students and myself as well are the tense and release exercises. And if you just Google tense and release exercises, you can find different scripting for this. But basically, it's like the name suggests, tensing your muscles, holding it for a second or two, and then releasing them. We know anxiety and stress manifests and is held in our body in different ways. For me, I feel it in my shoulders. When I'm stressed, my shoulders are all the way up to my ears. So I find this type of tense and release activity to be really helpful. So you just go through, start at step 1, tense your feet, hold it and release, and you just keep going all the way to step 10. So I'll allow you some time to pause this video and try this for yourself. Awesome. I am feeling much more relaxed now. So there's so many different activities that you could do like this. Here are just a couple of different ways that I find to be helpful. And I'll let you just take all of that in. Again, some of these might teeter on self-soothing self-care, but all really good ways to relieve stress for yourself. So LMTI has created some worksheets to go with this presentation, and some of them were directly referenced in the slide before. So we have our ILAC boosters and shield. If you don't know, ILAC stands for I am lovable and capable. And this activity is essentially creating a self-care plan for yourself. It's taking inventory of what makes you feel good, what makes you feel calm, right? That awareness. And then it's putting it all into the shield, your plan. That's your balance. That's your plan, your connections, all of that in there. We also have a worksheet on stress signature, which is really good, especially for younger students. It's about making that connection between your stress and how it feels physically in your body, and how we might handle that stress in the future. We've also got our LMTI self-care checklist that has some questions for you to ask yourself when you're checking in with yourself each day. And we've also got some coloring pages in there too, some mindful activities, right, of beautiful Camp Mason. Self-care is a topic that I could probably talk about for days. And there's a lot of things that we didn't necessarily hit on in this very short webinar. So I did want to share a couple of other resources. I'll specifically highlight blog.calm.com. They have so many good resources, free resources, different meditations, different music playlists, different worksheets. And they also have a really great presence on Instagram as well, where they'll do Q&As and go live a lot. The Selfcare Institute is also a great resource. I love everything that they've been putting out. They have a lot of great blog posts, kind of discussing what self-care looks like, especially in the world we're living in right now. And yeah, these are all just excellent resources for you to check out if you want to learn more about self-care. And, don't forget to check them out on Instagram as well. There's so many good self-care Instagram profiles, and you can find them on our Instagram, NJLMTI. We have a highlights reel about self-care. So I hope that you take a moment for yourself today, plan to take a break and check in with yourself, and then address whatever you find, and just take that time to fill up your cup, recharge your batteries, because it's important and your mental health matters. So I hope that you take that time. Thanks so much for listening. If you have any questions, if you want to learn more, you can feel free to contact LMTI. My email's right there. It's rtaylor@pipnj.org. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you on our next LMTI Spotlight.